Hey guys, before we get started on today's episode, I just want you to know that Kevin is running a special promo just for our listeners. If you spend over $100, you can save 10% off either online or in store with the coupon code BEARFISH. That is BEERFISH. So this is the perfect opportunity if you want to jump into the fly fishing world. Other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode.
Thank you for joining us at Beerfish Fanatics. And this episode is actually brought to you by Whisker Seeker Tackle.
So make sure you guys go to whiskerseeker.com for all your catfishing gear.
Enjoy the episode, guys. All right, guys, ready?
Yeah.
Think
All right, guys, welcome to another episode of Beerfish Fanatics. This is Grandy, my pop fishing. We got
Kit with the Fishing Kit YouTube channel.
And today, we're on site again. I think we've been doing on site past couple times, huh?
Yeah, it feels good being in person.
Yeah,
I
agreed.
mean, Zoom's convenient and all, but
Nice to have you guys in the shop finally.
Yeah.
Exactly. And just to be in person, I think it just the vibe is a little bit different, obviously, and just kind of, because we've been doing it online because of COVID and everything, so it's kind of now slowly we're getting to the let's get into person.
You can enjoy a beer with your fishing friends now.
Exactly.
Exactly.
So today, just everybody's wondering, we have Kevin here with Rods and Rivets here in Des Moines, Iowa. And I really wanted to I've actually been trying to get a hold of him. He's a busy man. They just moved to his new shop, so make sure you guys check it out down here in Des Moines. But I am really dabbing into fly fishing, so I want to know a little bit more. And who better than to ask you? So
Awesome, man. No, we've been open 3 years now. We're Iowa's only dedicated fly shop. It was an total accident that I opened a fly shop. It was never part of the grand plan to open a fly shop in Des Moines, Iowa. But it's been a lot of fun. We've taught a ton of people the sport, and our biggest thing when people come in, we don't want them to be intimidated. I don't know that there's such a thing as a snotty fly shop anymore. I think those days are gone. Fly fishing is just fishing. That's what we tell people when they come in the shop, like, hey man, you already fish? You're allowed to be outdoors? You're a perfect candidate to pick up a fly rod. There's some situations where the fly rod is a better tool. There's a lot of situations where it's not a better tool. It makes it tougher, but a little more challenging, and therefore I think a little more fun.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna be asking you more, because I told my wife already. I was like, all right, I think I'm gonna dive in. I think for next year, obviously, but I think I don't know where to start. So that's where it's gonna. I'm assuming. I know Fishing Kit here. He dabbled into fly fishing a little bit.
Yeah, I got, I think, one, maybe two fly fishing videos this year, from early in the spring.
Okay.
I just went down to, usually we don't say the lake names, but I'm going to say Aquabi because they drained it, they drained it this past year, so that doesn't matter.
And it's Iowa. Let's be honest, there's not a lot of secrets.
Right.
There's not a lot of secrets here. Right. The best way to get started is just pop into a shop like ours. There's so much information now that there wasn't when I started, 10 or 15 years ago. There's so many YouTube channels, there's so many how-to videos, and a lot of that, there's a lot of stuff you can get in the weeds about that you don't need to get in the weeds about. I have a lot of first-timers coming in and say, I watched this video, or I was told this, I read this blog, and I say, stop watching YouTube for a couple weeks. Come in, let us know your budget. We'll help you pick out a rod and reel, some flies, do a casting lesson with you, come back in a couple weeks, see where you're at. Ponds, local stuff's a great way to get started. People don't realize, they come in the store, they're like, oh, where do you fly fish here? I'm like, well, anything you catch with conventional gear, you can catch with a fly rod. And a lot of people are unaware of that. Bluegill, crappie, bass, carp is a really huge fly rod target.
Yeah. Our buddy, or his brother-in-law in Colorado, he always talks about it.
They're incredibly challenging. They're fun to catch. They pull. I think most fly rodders want a fish that pulls and runs, and they're kind of, people equate them to a bonefish, like a brown water bonefish or a dirty water bonefish, Beaver Creek bonefish. There's a lot of terms for carp, but they're tough. They're easy to catch on a worm. They're hard to catch on a fly. So they're pretty rewarding fish. Fly fishers tend to gravitate sometimes to those things that are a little more challenging to catch. Gotcha. And just by using feathers on a hook, that does a lot of it.
I'm glad I came in because I was the last week I've been watching a lot of YouTube of fly fishing.
He was just saying stop watching those videos.
Watching YouTube.
Shit, yeah. I just wasted a week worth of YouTube watching, man.
We call that fish porn, and we all watch it. We all look at Instagram. We all whatever. But the best way if you're serious about learning is find a friend that already does it. Okay. Join a club. Hawkeye Fly Fishers, Trout Unlimited. Fly fishers are really, they're like drug addicts. They want other people to do their drug with them. More so than conventional guys. Conventional guys are like, nope, I'm not taking you fishing. Fly rodders are like, somebody has a little bit of interest in it, and they are like hounding that guy till he comes fly fishing with.
Is it like, oh yes, I can have one more guy join me?
Because fly fishers, they do a lot of trips together, and so it's like the more fishing buddies you have, the cheaper the fishing trip, right? Mm-hmm. If it's just you, it's expensive. If it's you and 3 other buddies, it makes everything more reasonable.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. We'll dedicate, I think, next spring.
You know what we should do? I'll say it right now. We should do a trip. Kirby's over here off camera, but Kirby's my right-hand man at the shop. He's a great guide. He went to guide school this summer, real knowledgeable guy. The 4 of us should do a trip up at the Driftless, and we'll take you guys trout fishing.
Okay. Yeah, I've when I first got a fly rod, that's where I went up to, caught my biggest trout I ever caught, 20 inches. I mean, that's decent for Iowa, right?
Iowa. Really good for Iowa.
Yeah. I think saw my buddy who's like using a woolly bugger, which is I think probably one of the more common flies, right? Yeah.
Woolly bugger catches just about everything.
Yeah. So. Well, I didn't know what I was doing. I was just like, okay, as long as I could get in the water. And then it just drifted over like this little waterfall, and I saw the trout come up, smack it, and I guess the rest is history. I guess.
Yeah. We're real fortunate. Sorry if I'm talking too much. We're real fortunate here in Iowa. We have probably approximately 150 miles of public trout water, limestone spring creeks that are really nutrient rich. So there's a lot of insect life, a lot of bug life, a lot of food in those streams. So we have really productive trout streams in Iowa, and I think. Me growing up in central Iowa, I grew up with a 16-foot Lund in Pleasant Hill, and we'd go to the Des Moines River. We'd go to Easter Lake, pre-new Easter Lake. We'd go to Big Creek. We'd go to Saylorville. I didn't know about the Driftless, as we call it, where the trout streams are until I was probably in my early 20s.
Yeah.
They kept that a secret from me.
I want to say I didn't even know about that area until I moved back. Because I lived in Des Moines pretty much all my life. And then I didn't even know about the driftless, like you're saying up there. I mean, because I wasn't huge into fishing either back then. But I didn't really know about it until I moved back. And then that's a great idea because my kids love camping up there.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, it's definitely, we'll do that next year for sure.
Would you say Iowa's a little underrated when it comes to fly fishing? Because normally people don't, when I think of fly fishing, I think like mountains in Colorado or flats in Florida, something like that.
And that's how most people envision, their reference to the sport, let's be honest, is a river runs through it, or some version of that. Or they were at Rocky Mountain National Park and they were driving through, and off the window there's a couple people fly fishing, and we get a lot of people that come in from out west that are like, I was just in Colorado, I took a fishing trip and I want to do it. How do I get started? But again, I have a lot of respect for those guys who take the fly rod and do a lot of different things other than trout as well. And we really try to promote that here. I mean, Kirby's heard me say this, I'll fish for anything that'll eat a fly. There isn't not a species of fish that I won't try to catch.
I really want to catch a hybrid striped bass on a fly.
Yeah.
And white bass.
Yep.
Yeah.
We'll do that next. No, I really am. I'll talk to you offline, but I really am. I'm really. I already told my wife before I even came here. She goes. She asked me like, "Who are you doing the podcast with today?" I go, "Rod and Rivets." She goes, "What's Rod and Rivets?" I go, "It's fly fishing."
Yeah.
And I go, and she goes, "You keep talking about it. Are you gonna freaking do it or what? Because I have a lot of ice gear. I have a lot of open water gear. I have a lot of money already invested." But she goes, "I mean, if you're gonna do it, whatever."
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I'm gonna dive in slowly. and see if I can at least catch
Well, another thing too, that barrier to entry, you know, when I exclusively used what we call conventional gear, which is all the other stuff you're talking about in the fly fishing world, we call that conventional gear. I had money wrapped up in spinning rods and bait casting rods and all kinds of shit, right? And with the fly rod, you can actually keep it quite simple if you want. Like, we're talking all in, everything you possibly could need, even boots and waders, maybe, you know, $600 to $800. And that's a one-time purchase. That's not an ongoing thing. Now, what happens is you guys know, you're like, well, that rod's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I might need this rod for that. But, you know, for a couple, $300, a guy can get into it. Go trout fishing, go pond fishing. You don't need boots and waders for every application. Boots and waders are not fun to buy. They're just a necessary evil of the sport if you're going to be in the water a lot. But you can wear them for, you know, river fishing in the fall and winter and spring here, you know, with conventional gear as well.
Well, I caught walleye because I was in the water yesterday.
Yeah.
I tried out my new boots. I bought out new boots, waterproof boots.
Did you?
Awesome.
Yeah, and I actually was in, you know, maybe a couple feet in. I don't know if it helped me or not, but I caught the fish.
You know, speaking of walleyes, I think a walleye on the fly would be cool.
See, that's what I'm saying.
I've caught them on the fly on accident.
Yeah.
They're a hard species to target on the fly.
What would you say is like the biggest misconception about fly fishing? Like before, because a lot of our listeners, I don't know, I've never taken a poll, but I would assume a lot of our listeners are conventional fishermen.
Yep.
So what would be the biggest misconception about a conventional fisherman thinking about fly fishing?
That it's hard.
Okay.
I think they see people cast on, you know, it's the hip thing to do now. If you're trying to sell a truck or life insurance, to have some gray-haired dude out there in the stream casting, and it's really just exercise and just timing. I mean, most people we teach to cast
20 minutes, you could have somebody catching a trout.
Yeah.
You know, just explain a little.
3 minutes, I can have catching a bluegill. So, you know, it's a much easier process than people realize.
Oh, speaking of how you're talking about how it's kind of hip,
Yeah.
there's like a Jeep commercial with, I think, Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah.
He's like out at a lake and he's he's probably not fly fishing, but they just show somebody fly fishing.
They use
out
fly
there.
fishing, and it definitely is it's the fastest growing, you know, we get industry information from different websites I subscribe to and different industry people, and it's the fastest growing portion of the sport fishing industry. But it is still like a drop in this can of the overall sport fishing business. It's, you know, anywhere from 0.5% to 1% of the whole business.
Yeah. So
And that includes lodge trips, that includes guide trips, everything, gear. So it's still very, very kind of under the radar.
But like you said, it's growing, and I think
It is growing.
because I hear people talking
Yeah.
about it, and I even got interested. I'm looking, you know,
Yeah.
it's just different, I guess. I don't know. Is it different or how?
It is. It's, if you like being outdoors, you fall right into it. But I will say this, versus, let's say I'm throwing a spin rod with a plastic worm for a bass versus hitting a bass on a topwater popper. You know, there's a different feel to it. The rods bend more, a small fish feels bigger. And then the first time you hook up, I love to saltwater fish. It's my absolute favorite thing in the world.
Okay.
The first time you hook up with a bonefish or a tarpon or a jack or a barracuda, it's over. It's over. I can't explain it to
There's
you
no
guys.
going back.
Or a big salmon or a real big trout in Alaska, or even your first trout on a dry fly in the driftless. Like, there is no going back.
right.
You're like, how did I not know about this until right now? And that's what happened to me. And then 15 years later, I have a fly shop.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Oh, cheers! By the way, we gave Kevin here the Startup Stout by Kalona Brewing Company.
It's delicious.
And then what you got?
The Blufeweizen, the
Blufeweizen.
blueberry.
I might have another one here.
Oh,
in a
we will.
second.
We got
Yeah.
I
plenty.
think we should give Kirby one
Kirby
too.
one. Kirby, say hello.
I'd enjoy one. How's it going, guys?
I should probably put a mic on him.
Yeah. All right, here you go, Kirby. You can introduce yourself.
Yeah.
My name's Kirby Sales. I'm the head guide at Rod and Rivet, and
Hold on, we gotta get you on camera, man. There There we go.
There's Kirby.
Let's get over here.
There's Kirby.
I should have set up another mic. I guess I could real quick. But it's alright. You can share the mics.
All right.
That's fine.
We'll get him another beer.
Okay. Take two, Kirby. Take two.
My name's Kirby Sales. I'm the head guide at Rod and Rivet. I've been here since they opened. And
Just came on full time with us.
yep, just came on full time.
November, 1st of November.
Well, that's recent. That was like 2
Yeah,
weeks ago.
yeah. We've been really busy. We've been real fortunate, during the pandemic. I know everybody leads with that term when they're talking about their life or their business, but we've definitely been busy enough 3 or 4 days a week that we need 2 of us in here to help the customers. Because, again, people have a lot of questions when it comes to fly fishing. We want to spend a little time with them, and we want them to have a good start to the sport. Because if they have a good experience, they're going to stick with it and be a customer for a long time, we hope.
What would you say is the biggest target of species for fly fishing, at least in central Iowa? I know, obviously, because I have a lot of in-laws that live in Colorado.
Yeah.
I already know what the hell they
Trout is definitely number one. Trout's the gateway drug.
Smallmouth bass probably comes in second.
Yeah, smallmouth,
Bring that closer to you guys, both of you two.
smallmouth bass, largemouth bass.
Chair keeps spinning.
For
on
central Iowa are probably the 2 most common things people go after with the fly rods.
Smallmouth bass, huh?
Yeah,
Really?
yeah. Smallies are such an underrated game fish in our part of the country. I know a little further north, they're Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan. They're really highly regarded, but they fight. Fly rodders tend to gravitate towards those fish that fight hard. No offense to walleye fishermen.
They just taste good. Walleyes taste
Walleye are
good.
delicious, but they kind of just
Yeah, wet sock. They're a wet sock.
they are a wet sock. And if I catch one on the fly, I'm happy to catch it. I'm excited because didn't try to catch it. But if I'm a smallmouth fish and I catch a walleye, I'm like, cool. But we don't target them. Smallies are great fly rod fish. They're a ton of fun. They fight harder than trout. A 10-inch fly rod on a Clouser minnow or a woolly bugger on lightweight tackle is, if you have a river full of those, and we have a couple rivers close by that are pretty good smallie rivers, you can spend an afternoon having a really great day close to home. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely rank smallmouths way higher than like a largemouth. They're
Yeah.
kind of bottom of the totem pole for me, but smallmouth, yeah.
They're the gentlemen of the warm water species. I saw this old fly fishing video, and it's like from the 70s, and the dude's telling people how to catch smallie. The old, you pop in the VHS, and this guy's, I don't know where he's at, West Virginia or Virginia, and he's talking about them being the gentlemen of the warm water species. But they really do fight. They pull, they jump, they're aggressive, everything you want in a game fish.
So I have to target them a little bit more.
Yeah, they're awesome.
Yeah, they're kind of I guess I wouldn't say they're very common in Iowa, at least not that I know. Maybe you know something that I don't know.
No, they're not super common, but there are a couple river systems. I have a lot of guys that shop here just honestly fish the Des Moines and the Raccoon for them. Kirby and I fish the Middle Raccoon quite a bit. I know we're not supposed to give away spots, but again, there are very few secrets here.
We can mute it.
Iowa.
It's already
We'll
pretty
edit it out. Don't worry, guys.
You don't have to.
It's more your medium-sized smallmouth.
Yeah,
in that river
you know,
anyways,
10, 12-inch
but
fish.
They still put up a really
but
good fight.
but it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
You guys ever caught, like he was saying, you guys ever caught any like white bass or hybrid striped bass yet?
I have not.
On the Des Moines, yeah.
Kirby's
You
caught
have.
him on the Des Moines.
On the fly, huh?
Just a few. I haven't really messed around with them too much, but I know that's a good fish to target.
We have clients that target them
for
at
poppers
Sailorville.
And,
yeah.
I'm sure you can throw some clousers in there for
And
them
when
too,
the
so.
shatter running on on Big Creek and Sailorville, they'll target them there.
Can you explain, if you don't mind? I know this is probably a noob question, but can you explain a little bit about when you go fly fishing, what does that actual lure do? Because some people think it's just floats on,
So I think, again, because of all the commercials and a river runs through it, they think that they're trying to mimic a literal fly just hitting the water and the fish comes up and eats it, which is part of the sport. But the fly, we're just like a Rapala or a Texas rigged worm. We're trying to imitate bait fish food sources of the fish. Now with trout are drift feeders, so they sit for the most part in one lie in a river or stream, and the food comes to them all day long. So they've got McDonald's just flowing at them at, whatever 500 CFS.
That's
or 100
efficient.
Trout are really efficient. They'll sit there all day long, and these little tiny bugs come at them. So most fly fishers try to mimic those little insects. So another thing, people come in the shop and they're like, they pick up a fly for the first time, like a little, what we call a nymph, which is a subsurface fly. And the fly's this big, it's a couple millimeters. And they're like, they're used to throwing a shad wrap that's like this. They're like, how does this catch fish? I'm like, trust me, it does.
Okay. Well, what he's mentioning right here, Kevin was mentioning, is the river runs through it. And the movie, I don't know if you've seen it, but I
have not.
It actually got me into.
You've not seen a river runs through it?
That's like
sorry.
That's like the most known fly fishing movie of all time.
Probably the most known fishing movie of all time.
Actually,
after Jaws or something,
which is a bad. Well,
Yeah.
But no, you're right. It actually might be one of the greatest, most well-known movies of all time. So, people listening, I mean, I don't know, we have younger listeners or whatnot, because it's an older movie.
It's early 90s, I believe.
Yeah. It's got Brad Pitt, so go watch it, guys.
Directed by Robert Redford.
Yeah. It's a great movie. Don't get me wrong. It's a great movie. Yeah. But I think, like you were saying, like it got me interested in fly fishing, but then it just looked like what you just explained.
Part of the reason it got people, I wasn't around for this portion of the sport, but there was a big boom in the industry post, they call it the movie. It was just a huge influx of new fly fishers. And this has been said about trout specifically, and I think this about other species as well. Trout don't live in ugly places. Trout don't live where catfish live. And nothing against catfish.
Catfish on the fly. How about that?
Love catfish. Okay.
One of the coolest things ever, I go to Gray's Lake a handful of times a year with my kayak, and there's one bank, there's mulberries on one bank of Gray's Lake, and there'll be carp, drum, catfish, gar. Catfish, I hadn't caught a catfish in 20 years probably until a few years ago, and I started catching them on the fly, Gray's Lake. Fun fish. Great game fish. Pulls hard.
Yep, I agree.
We'll have to know that spot.
And you would think catfish, I got to put a chunk of dead bait or stink bait or a worm, but they're predators. They'll eat a fly.
Yep. I agree.
That's pretty cool. Because I was at Raccoon River Park. I was kayaking out there trying to catch catfish because there's a ton of catfish in there. They're not huge or anything, but they got pretty good numbers. And there was a mulberry tree hanging over the water, and I just hear like, I'm like, what the hell is that noise? Yeah. And then I just casted my, I was bait fishing. I just casted my bait over there. Then I started catching catfish. Like, that's pretty dang cool.
Yeah, they're cool fish. They're a great predator. I mean, there are channel cats. I think it's our state fish. But we do Iowa. We are the easternmost range for the eastern brook trout, native range for the eastern brook trout. So trout are actually native to Iowa, and I think a lot of people don't realize that as well. I think that's pretty cool. I didn't know that.
Are brown trout native?
Brown trout are from Europe.
Right, they're from like Germany or something, right?
And so they've been introduced everywhere almost in the U.S. now, and there are a lot of fly fishers have a deep affection for them because they're beautiful fish, and two, they pull and they get big, and they do well everywhere. They're almost like the carp of trout. A brown trout will survive in water where the clarity is not so great and the temperatures might be warm. Trout are a cold water fish, so they need cold, clean water to survive, and brown trout just do well everywhere. Yeah. And some of the bigger brown trout you'll ever catch in your life are in some of the most marginal. You're like, oh, that's frog water. Nothing's in there. Then there'll be a 2-foot long brown trout in there.
I think in northeast Iowa, there's like a few reproducing populations, isn't there?
We're real fortunate. The brown trout reproduce naturally everywhere.
Oh, everywhere.
Really?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. We stock the DNR stocks rainbow trout through the hatchery programs. In just about every stream up there, except a few. Excuse me.
No, I've burped like 10 times already.
But the brown trout, I don't think we've stocked brown trout in the state, and You have to get a couple of the DNR fishery guys. I'll get you hooked up with them. They'd be a good
Yeah, we have them on quarterly.
Yeah,
like Stike,
like
Scott Sipker, or
We haven't had Scott. We had like Jeff Kapaska.
Okay. You got to get the river guys on.
Yeah, we haven't had any of the river guys. We have a bunch of data guys and some fish
Yeah.
biologists. We
but
have like
I don't
Tyler
think
Stubbs and stuff.
we've stocked brown trout for 20 or 30 years in the state. We have a really great wild brown trout fishery.
That's pretty cool.
It is really cool, man.
So why don't the rainbows? I don't think we have any reproducing populations, do we?
We don't. I think a lot of it is the time rainbows spawn in the spring. Rainbow trout are native really just to the Pacific Northwest. So like rainbow trout aren't even native to Colorado or Montana. I don't believe. Maybe portions of Montana. It's all cutthroat territory. Oregon, Washington, California, Idaho, I believe, are the native rainbow populations. But we're just fortunate that we've got cold enough, clean enough water to have trout in the state.
True.
And I think our trout fishery in Northeast Iowa is better than it's ever been, which is most fisheries can't say that.
What do you mean by that?
The size of the fish, the numbers of fish, our access to the water, the quality of the water remains, pretty stable. And another big reason I, as a conservationist, I feel like, and no offense to conventional guys, because I we go to the Keys every year and I put a piece of shrimp on there and throw that thing out there and catch dinner. So I have nothing against conventional gear and I still fish it. I feel like fly rodders are a little bit more aware of the environmental issues that go along with water, because whether it's flats fishing or cold water trout fishing, these habitats are a little more they're a little more delicate. Carp, catfish, bass, crappie, bluegill can kind of live in a mud puddle.
Yeah.
I think you're right on that because you never hear or never really see fly fishermen leave trash and shit around.
No.
It's very true.
Yeah, no, it is true, and even more so than just those individual things you look at. I think they think about the ecosystem as a whole too, and so I love having a young kid in here or a young family that wants to get into it because they're like, hey, we really love camping, kayaking, canoeing, whatever in the areas where trout live, and just pay more attention to it. I think there are more awareness brings more awareness to the issues at hand, and especially in central Iowa. I don't want to get too political.
Is it
Right.
political or philosophical? Is that?
I don't even think it should be political, to be honest with you. Hey man, if somebody is a fisherman, they're probably okay, dude. Or especially if they're, as I told Kirby, I said, if the guy fly fishes, he can't be a total asshole. He's got to have one redeeming quality, and that one redeeming quality is he likes to be outdoors with a fly rod. But we have some real water quality issues in Iowa, and for a
no
couple of
doubt.
guys who have a fishing podcast and brew, beer that's brewed in Iowa, I'm assuming the water comes from Iowa,
Yeah.
where they make their beer. I just wish more people were aware of some of the issues we have with our water quality.
We see it a lot.
Yep. And it's not just the trash.
Just when we had the Iowa DNR, they talked to us in regards to.
Yeah, and I think if the sporting community as a whole it's a pretty powerful voice. That's what's that's why I'm excited you guys message me to have me on this thing, because you're part of the sporting community in the state of Iowa. So
Yeah. Glad to have you.
yeah.
Well, like going back to what you were talking about, I feel like fly fishermen, like just the, I don't want to say like the art of it.
Yeah. I don't ever. A lot of people have that idea that it's snotty or that it's this
Right.
otherly thing. And again, Kirby and I always just say, man, it's just fishing.
Yeah. Well, what I was trying to say is like just getting involved in fly fishing. I feel like fly fishermen are just, you do have to take an extra step.
Yep.
So you're a little bit more involved.
Correct.
That's why you were saying, that's why most fly fishermen are like more, dang, what's the word? I lost track.
There's a conservation ethic that maybe
Yeah.
isn't there with some other forms of
Right.
you know.
Yeah, just fly fishing itself, you gotta take a little extra step.
Yeah.
And then that brings you as a person, it just steps you up to like there's more stuff that you think about.
Yeah, it comes full circle. Like Kirby and I were up a couple weeks ago together, and we'd done a group of trips. We'd had about 25 or 30 people up maybe 2 weeks prior. We tried to put another trip together. Nobody wanted to go fishing with us, which was totally cool with Kirby and I, because
Just got to go hang out.
we spent 3 days in a
Fun
cabin
fish.
and we hunted and fished for those 3 days and had a great time. But we had another friend with us, and I was helping him just learn the fly rod. And Kirby came downstream to grab us. He's like, "You guys got to come up here and see this." And it was hundreds of brown trout spawning. I mean, they weren't actively spawning together,
Still fanning their beds out.
but it looked like
jumping out
a
of the water and-
salmon run in Alaska. It was the coolest thing ever. And to see that in Iowa, to have a stream that's cold enough and clear enough to have that happen is pretty cool. Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Where's the best spot that you've ever fly fished? You personally, and you too.
That's gotta be a tough
after.
one.
I'm just curious. I just want to know because that could be like a bucket list spot if I really get into
If
this.
any outdoorsman has never been to Alaska, you have to go there. I believe it's the size of like a quarter or a third of the continent. It's like California, Texas, and Oregon, Washington. I mean, it's huge. It's massive. There's no people there. The road system only goes to a few towns. The biggest rainbow trout you've ever seen that pull salmon, grizzly bears, all of it. Alaska would definitely be one of those places. If you've never been, you have to go just to see it.
So it's just like the movies.
Just to it is more than like the movies. The towns most guys will go out of to do this are little villages. The town we fish out of, King Salmon. There's a commercial salmon kind of epicenter there in another village called Naknek, which isn't too far away. It's just cool. Personally, I love saltwater fly fishing. That is my, like, if I could just do one thing the rest of my life, it'd be a toss-up between Northeast Iowa and saltwater. Northeast Iowa just because it's home, and we're really blessed to have that habitat here in the state. It's beautiful, but I love to saltwater fly fish. A 2-pound saltwater fish will, I don't care how big your largemouth bass is. I don't care.
Right.
Because
I don't care either.
Don't worry.
Because they're on the bottom of the totem pole.
Because it doesn't. Are you guys like not big bass guys either?
No, I mean, we're big. I would say hybrid striped bass and white bass guys. When it comes to largemouth bass,
Yeah.
like he was just saying, it's kind of. I mean, sorry guys. I know we have a lot of bass listeners,
Yeah.
and they're kind of low on the totem
Yeah,
pole.
and my biggest thing too, if you're an angler, like I'm like, don't you want to try other stuff? Aren't you curious about whatever it is? But for me, it'd be Alaska. Would be like you got to go there. Whatever. Most people go there and they'll do this. If they're conventional guys, they'll do a halibut thing offshore and they'll do a salmon thing. But lots to do there. And the other thing, if you've never saltwater fished, you guys that are listening, whether it's with the fly rod or conventional gear, go down to the Gulf, go down to Florida, go to Belize or the Yucatan, and saltwater fish pull.
Yeah, that's what I keep hearing.
They pull, and it's the kind of addiction that never leaves you. Once you experience that pull, you will always want that. The tug is the drug.
Right.
Is
You want more of it.
Is Alaska family friendly? Because if I'm gonna sell this to the boss lady, I gotta.
Alaska is obscenely expensive.
Great. Hey, don't edit that out.
Do not. No, don't.
She
have
don't
to,
listen
don't edit it out.
anyways.
Yeah, that's true.
Don't
I
bring-
don't know yet. One of these days, she's gonna catch.
Don't bring your kids until they can really appreciate it.
Okay.
Middle school or older. Everything has to be flown in or shipped in.
Wow, really?
outside of the main road system from Anchorage. So
I guess it's similar to Hawaii, right?
it's even crazier. It's even more expensive. You know, a 6-pack of beer at the little convenience store where they actually have a little convenience store. It's like $36
Holy shit.
for like you know, an Alaska Amber Ale. It's, you know.
Wow.
One time we ran out of cash because the ATM in the village was out of money, and we had to tip our guides, and we tipped them in cases of beer.
Wow.
Because I think a 24-pack was like $125 or something.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Speaking of beer, I need a refill.
Oh, my bad. So now winter's here, or fall, winter, whatever the heck you call it.
Winter's coming.
Winter's coming. That's okay.
It's here.
It's here. It's here. This episode is brought to you by Kalona Brewing Company. If you live in Eastern Iowa, make sure to swing by Kalona Brewing Company's tap room. Amazing food and amazing craft beer. If you live in Central Iowa or in the Midwest, swing by your local supermarket and see if they carry the Kalona Brewing Company line of beer. And also swing by your local restaurants, local bars, see if they have Kalona Brewing Companies on tap. If not, make sure you guys request it. I kid you not, you won't regret that. Other than that, enjoy this episode, guys. What would you recommend to a fly fisherman in Central Iowa? Is there anything you can they still fly fish? Or?
Well, the cool part so a lot of guys just tie flies. So another aspect of this sport that kind of makes it all full circle is we have a pretty good fly tying department here. We do classes here on these tables where we're sitting, and a lot of guys will make their own bugs.
Okay.
So they'll spend all winter, you know, drinking beer, watching football, basketball, watching fish porn, tying their own flies. But also our spring creeks, it's all spring fed groundwater. So the water's actually warmer than the air when it's cold. Mm-hmm. So let's say it's 15 degrees out in Decorah, the water temp of those streams coming out of those springs is in the 40s and 50s. Probably more of the 40s than the 50s, but so our streams don't freeze. Mm-hmm. So you can trout fish year round in the state of Iowa. We don't have a closed season. We've got very simple bag limits. If people want to keep a couple trout for dinner, which I have no problem with at all. I'm more of a habitat guy than an individual fish guy, you know. So yeah, most fly fisher or honestly go down to Florida or Belize or Bahamas and that's what a lot of us do or dream about doing when it gets cold, because I get a little John Gear calls it the shack nasties. You get a little angry because you're not outdoors.
That's all right. Hey, but you said earlier, so Kevin's gonna go ice fishing this year.
Yeah, so Kirby, my right hand man's an all around outdoorsman, which I
Do a little bit of everything out.
I'm ashamed that I'm not. I started bird hunting this year with Kirby because of that. I hadn't done anything but fly fish for 15 years. I don't golf. I just fly fish. So my wife's like, will you talk about something other than fishing when we're at a party?
Because she's obviously part of Rivet.
Oh yeah, she's co-owner. I mean, we're married, so yeah.
Yeah. So did you get her into it? Was she always into it?
No, one of our very first dates, I took her up to Northeast Iowa, and she grew up on the Mississippi. She grew up in Muscatine.
Okay.
She never spent a day in the Mississippi, on the Mississippi, doing anything near the Mississippi, and she literally was 6 blocks away.
Wow.
So she did not grow up in an outdoor family, and since then, she's been to Alaska with me, Belize, the Florida Keys, Northeast Iowa, Wyoming, Montana, everywhere. She absolutely loves back to saltwater fishing, even though we live in Des Moines. Her hands down favorite thing in the world. If she's like, hands down. So part of the reason I love that so much, that trip we do annually together, is her love for being in the Keys and fishing for saltwater fish. She loves it.
So you guys are fly fishing off the boat?
We'll do a mix of both, but yeah, we will fly fish in the Everglades primarily, which is a really great place for a new fly fisher to learn because it's not so technical. Mm-hmm. So when we do trips down to the Keys, we take a lot of people to the Everglades. I'm sure it was. I have no idea how great it was 40 years ago down there. They've had their own water quality issues, but there's still a lot of habitat, a lot of fish. You see birds, you see crocodiles, you see alligators, you see all kinds of wildlife. It's pretty cool. Yeah, and it's her favorite thing. If I said, "Hey, I'm picking you up. We're going to the airport. I got a charter tomorrow. We're going fishing," she'd be like, "Okay, I'll cancel whatever else we had going on."
Man.
Yeah.
Do you generally take those trips during the winter time?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
We go down there anywhere between December and June.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what else does Iowa's only fly shop do during the winter, as far as the shop's concerned?
Just be depressed that we're not out fishing more. We do a lot of fly tying classes. We also sell apparel here as well. So the guys that are, I've got a lot of guys that buy sportswear from me, outdoor gear, but maybe don't fish as much, and vice versa. Guys that fish a lot that might need a sweater or a sweatshirt. Basically just dream about being somewhere warm and fly fishing.
Okay.
Telling Kirby I can't wait to go down to Florida Keys and go fly fishing.
Just getting ready for the ice fishing season.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We
He's-
can
he's-
relate to
you're
that.
gonna-
We can relate to that.
He's going to get addicted to ice fishing.
Exactly. We're getting a new ice hut this year, and I'm taking up to Brushy Creek.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go chase some crappie.
I gave, before you guys came, I gave Kirby, I said if we hit our sales goal for the holiday season, I'm buying Kirby a new ice hut
Okay.
Getting a nice flip over.
and a nice one.
Okay.
So if your listeners could come into the shop and help Kirby
all right.
get an ice hut,
Gotta
that'd be
bump those
great.
sales up.
Yeah.
Bump up the sales here. Okay.
Yeah.
And then if you're getting to ice fishing, you got to let us know because we're pretty big into ice fishing.
Okay.
You just let us know. We're local, obviously, so we can get you on some good fishing that you're going to be, you know what, this ice fishing thing is not too bad.
All right.
You're kind of hyping us up a little bit. We gotta, we might be able to get you on some fish.
We'll go ice fishing with you guys, and then you guys come fly fishing with us.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, perfect.
That's not a bad
I haven't
idea.
been ice fishing since I told Kirby probably 9 or 10 years old. So
Oh, dude, you have flashers and
Oh, yeah.
fish? Okay, so, and then, you'll be fine because we got Mr. Live Scope homie over here. So
there might be too many electronics involved for me to not be on a boat.
you're going to love it.
How do you
You're
like
gonna-
the live scope?
Yeah, you're gonna love it. It's like a video game.
I know.
It's,
I've heard.
It can detract from fishing. I ain't gonna lie, because you're kind of like just tuned in to your electronics, and I'm busy like looking for stuff. Like, hey, I'm going here. I'm looking for like a piece of structure, constantly moving, and then I end up fishing for I don't know half an hour, but I'm out there for like 2 hours.
I got a group of buddies that I would do a annual trip to northern Minnesota with them, and then I've since transitioned them over to we do Colorado trips now together. And they are all huge ice fishermen, and they every year they keep trying to tell me, "You should just come with us. You should come with us."
Yeah. No, let me know whenever you go to Colorado. I
Yeah.
have family over there.
Yeah.
Wouldn't mind if I'm over there because I go there at least multiple times a
One
year.
of the coolest trips I did this year was with this group, and we went to southern Colorado and fished the Rio Grande. We stayed in South Fork, Colorado, and a little town of Creed, and it really was a really cool. It felt a lot of Colorado feels a little bit. I don't know how to put it without sounding like an asshole.
just go for it.
Go for it.
Little broy, a little. Anyway, the towns we were in, there were no Range Rovers, there were no, and I own a Toyota, but there were no like souped up Forerunners. It was just like ranches, farms. It was a cool. It reminded me of I love Wyoming is my favorite place in the West.
Yeah.
A lot of people vacation in Colorado, and I'm like, and I have friends that have like my friend I'm going to go have dinner with. They have a beautiful place in Colorado, and I love going out and visiting with them. But Wyoming is still the West, and that's really what I love Wyoming. So every year, June, July, and then again in September, we lease out a ranch, a little old homestead ranch. It's a family friend of my wife's. And we've been doing that for about 5 years, and we have anywhere between, say, 20 and 40 people that come out every year. So I spend probably 6 weeks a year out in Wyoming.
Okay. Wait, Wyoming. What's that lake that Kim always talks about with the giant perch? Is that in Wyoming? Cascade. Are you familiar with Cascade, Kirby?
Is that Utah? That's Utah.
Is
Yeah,
it Utah?
Yeah.
I think that's Utah.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do want to go up to that area because there's, I think, Fort Peck in Montana.
Is that North Dakota? It's Fort Peck.
Oh, that might be North Dakota. You might be right. Hold on.
North Dakota is really well known for perch, walleye, pike.
Well,
it might be. I don't know.
I
Well,
know Cascades.
We all
Utah.
have phones. We should Google.
yeah, we can
could.
totally
Kirby,
look it
where's
up right
Fort
now.
Peck?
I have no
I want to
idea.
say it's Montana.
Sorry.
I want to say it's Montana.
That sounds right, actually, but it's eastern Montana.
Right, because,
Yeah.
well, I really want to go up to that area. Well, Cascade's got the giant perch, like averages 15, 16 inches. That's pretty big for a perch.
Dude, that's
That's
enormous.
huge.
That's
Yeah.
enormous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's like the average.
It's like
out
a
there.
1,000-pound shark, but a perch.
Yes. No. I think perch wise, yeah, anything above 15, 16 inches, I think it's like a shark.
Yeah, Fort Peck is in Montana, and I want to go chase the lake trout out there. And we were talking to a guy from Vexillar. He was talking like, yeah, 80 fish days. And like, man, I've targeted lake trout twice in my life. And I've caught like 4 that were maybe a pound or 2. And lake trout get huge.
They do get huge, but they live deep.
Yeah,
So
they
like,
live
it's
deep.
not a really common fly rod species except for up north. And I've honestly never caught one. I've never gone fishing for them, but sometimes you just accidentally catch things when you're doing other stuff. But I do keep a little journal of like all the places I've been and all the fish I've caught on the fly rod, all my fishing license, like maybe a matchbook or a napkin from a cool bar. I think all fishermen, no matter what kind of fishing, they should do that.
Yeah, that's smart.
Yeah.
Journal. Start that.
Well, I just post videos. I guess that's my journal.
You guys should like make a journal like with your logo on the top of it and sell it.
Yeah, no.
No,
I don't know. It's a good idea. It's a
too
lot of
analog.
work.
Too analog.
No,
for
it's a
you
lot
guys?
of work. For me, I'm lazy. I think he should do it.
He's the business stuff. I just
No.
talk and I go fishing.
He goes fishing. I just talk. We just having
It's
fun.
like what me and Kirby do.
But you're right. We technically should be writing shit down, and we should be jotting a lot of stuff down, but we
Yeah.
don't. I don't know why. I don't know. I'm just lazy. I don't know. I'm just not that guy.
We said it was smart, and we're not necessarily smart. So
That's awesome. We're smart, but not necessarily
No, that's-
smart.
You guys probably have the. You guys have the only fishing podcast based in the state of Iowa.
No, there's a ton.
there's actually
Really?
a few.
There's we're not like one of the biggest or anything, I think, but we're probably one of the most like off the wall, I think. Like,
Okay.
we just have fun and talk
Kind of
stuff.
random.
Yeah.
Maybe least focused.
Yeah.
I
We're
love
probably
that.
the most least focused.
Yeah.
I might be the least focused fly fisher you've ever met. Ask
But no,
Kirby.
there's
I'm right there with you. So
Yeah, I spend more time driving around Northeast Iowa than I do fishing.
I like beer and fishing. So,
Yeah.
so that's one
Yeah.
BFFs, man.
Yeah.
Beer
Yeah.
fish fanatics. That's why we
Yeah.
started this
Like
thing.
we could have came in here, had a spreadsheet or like a freaking list of questions.
Yeah.
But we're just like we kind of just want to wing it. I mean, we have general ideas of what we want to talk about, but
Yeah.
we don't want to sit here and make it feel like, oh, this is an interview. I'm going to ask you this, and this. So that's kind of our thing. And people may or may not like it, but that's just what we do.
You know what I do notice, what I've been doing lately? I've been going back and re-listening to our podcast from exactly a year before, because like you were just saying, like you guys were saying, like we don't take no notes, but because we have a lot of guests that has so much knowledge about fishing and everything, and I go back and re-listen to our own podcast.
Yeah.
It's weird because I hate listening to my voice, like fucking weird, but. I listen to them and I'm trying to take those tidbits because they be giving us so many tidbits on, because this is the specific time, this is how you catch this or whatever the case may be. And it's like notes. It's really pretty damn cool actually going back and re-listening to it. So I guess in a way, we're taking notes by doing this.
I think though what you're doing here though, and I have this philosophy about fly fishing, but fishing in general, you can, because there's so much information out there, we're inundated with ads and information and blog posts and all this and that. The best way to learn an outdoor skill is to go do it.
Mm-hmm.
Do it with somebody who has knowledge about it. My favorite guide, saltwater guide, and one of my close friends down in the Keys is a no-nonsense guy. He's not stuffy. He doesn't yell at you. Great for a first-time fly fisher, but he'll literally have a little mooring ball, like a little foam ball with rusted out flies stuck to the thing. And the first bonefish I ever caught in the Florida Keys, he literally was like, "Oh, I think there's a school of bonefish over there," and he literally pulled off this fly that looked like it just looked like a piece of shit. Like it looked, it was falling apart. The hook was rusted, and he said, "Hold on." He staked out the skiff, tied the fly on. He said, "Okay, put it right over there. Strip, fish on." And he just is like, "Listen, I can overcomplicate this thing. Get the fly near the fish and strip it," you know. And I think we as an industry maybe get there might be too many experts in the fishing business. But I don't blame people. I mean they're trying to make a living, and so am I. You know, I Kirby and I were, you know, one thing we talk about every day, even when people are not around, is like, Kirby said this today. He's like, "Shit, man, I learn something new every day when I'm in the shop." Every day. He said that to me today about fly fishing. And every time I'm fishing with somebody new, even somebody who's never fly fished, I might learn a new way to teach somebody something. Or our clients here, you know, the same clients who brought us beer and whiskey for our opening are like, "Hey man, I just was out at so and so lake and there's muskie there." Or, you know, we have a good friend, Trey, who is a great warm water fly fisher, moved from Colorado, doesn't want shit to do with trout anymore because it's all he's caught his whole life.
Yeah.
And he ties the best carp flies I've ever fished. I mean, these carp will turn to eat this fly, and carp don't do that. So we learn stuff every day from our customers too, which is a really cool part about a fly shop.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
It is cool, man. You know?
Yeah, if you want to get into it, just don't be intimidated by it. And
Yeah. You just gotta love to be outdoors. If you love to be outdoors, you're a great candidate to be a fly fisher.
I see a lot of people really get into the fly tying.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you call it a hobby or just, I mean, I see more and more interest into it.
Yeah.
More and more. I mean, is that something that you've seen growing? And
You can waste an entire weekend tying flies and not even know it went anywhere. It definitely is growing along with again, it's a niche. Fly tying is a niche within a niche, but it definitely is very, very popular. There's a sense of satisfaction of, you know, making your own fly and then going out and catching a fish that you caught with your own fly. It makes it come full circle. It's like if you made your own rapala or whatever, or plastic worm.
Or if you made your own rod and you caught a fish on
there
that
you go.
rod.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I've been seeing a lot of people just really getting into this tie.
Yeah. There's even a whole culture of people who tie flies that don't even really fish.
Really?
Yeah. Could you imagine making like soft plastics or
That'd be weird.
rods and not fishing?
How can you? I guess you can, but I mean,
No, there's a sense of accomplishment, I think, and there's an art. You know, there's a beauty to you know, a well-tied fly. They always say that some flies catch fishermen, not fish.
if you're good at tying flies, you might not be good at fishing.
Yeah.
Like,
I tie like the bare bone. I tie like the 8 patterns that I use the most on the water.
Right.
Just out of like, oh, I got some time.
Well, it's kind of like, I don't know, the best sports car mechanic might not be like the best race car driver ever.
It's like to tinker with cars.
Yeah.
Yep.
very true. No,
Yep.
good analogy,
Yeah.
kid.
Thanks. Kind of pull that one out of
See, kid, you're smart.
Smart guy.
smartish. Smartish.
Smartish.
Okay,
Go ahead.
what I want to know is like, I feel like sometimes fly fishermen kind of, well, let's say conventional fishermen look at some fly fishermen as, elitist,
Snotty.
or snotty.
Yep.
Is there any truth behind it? I know, of course, with everything, there's gonna be those snobby.
I would
people.
say that all the snotty fly fishermen probably live in 3 states, and probably 2 of them are Western states, and 1 of them might be New York. But the industry as a whole and the sport as a whole is, there's just a lot of really cool people trying to make a living, and so I really don't. I've never had that experience going into a fly shop, and believe me, when I hire a guide, because my wife and I, like when I go to a new fishery, I hire a guide. I want to learn. I want to know what's going on. I've got a couple days to fish there. I want a guide. I want to know the river. I want to learn. I'd never tell them that I have any prior knowledge other than, like, they know right away if you can cast just enough to get the fly in the water and do what they tell you to do. I don't talk about it. I think that idea about the snotty fly shop or the snotty fly fisherman, there was a time and place for that, I think. But I think that's past.
Right.
I think the industry as a whole is way, way more welcoming to women, to not white people.
Well, like you were saying, if you want to grow the sport, you can't you can't be a snob. If you want more people getting into your sport.
No, man, and I want more people outdoors. I want more people giving a shit about water. I want more people giving a shit about everything. And also, as a business owner, I want more people buying my stuff.
Yeah.
And why would I? And I generally like everybody has a redeeming quality, and if you fly fish or hunt or enjoy the outdoors, again, you probably got some redeeming quality we can pull out of you. Right? We got something to talk about.
Right.
I always tell my wife this is awful, but you shouldn't have more than like 5 or 6 women together in a group. But like,
Oh boy.
but you can get a group of guys together that are like outside of that cocky high school age, and they'll find something in common, whether it's, like, oh, you like beer? I like beer. Like, we can be friends.
Right. You like fishing? Oh, yeah, I love fishing.
Oh, if you like fishing, we can be real good friends.
Right.
Yeah. So, and I hope nobody gets that impression of us here at this shop. And I think the other cool part is the fly fishing community in Central Iowa, and there is one that's bigger than I thought it was. And it's growing. Very helpful people, very knowledgeable people, all the way from 18 to 80, and everybody's got something to add. I have a lot of retired guys that'll come in with somebody younger he's like, hey, I'm helping so-and-so tie a woolly bugger today. I'm teaching them how to, tie a few knots or do this and that. Like I said, fly fishers a lot of them are addicts, and so they want other people to, like, they don't want to be alone. And I do love fishing by myself, but I really do enjoy the time spent on the water with other fishing friends. So
Makes sense.
The
water?
Freaking
Got
something dying.
Something dying.
That's what it sounds like.
Oh man.
Someone's like slaughtering a pig back there or something.
So no, this is so informative for a non-fly fisherman who wants to get into fly fishing.
I didn't want this to be a how-to thing.
No, I was telling you, we don't have anything scripted, and that's why I'm super excited to get really into it and give this a shot and see if I could. I don't know, because I see a lot of people who get into fly fishing and just see the pure bliss.
Oh, I'm telling you what, man, the first trout you catch by yourself on a fly rod, you're like, you're glowing.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if it's a ugly stocked rainbow trout or a 20-inch beautiful Wyoming, cutthroat. There is a sense of accomplishment that to be honest with you, I never got with conventional fishing, and I literally fished every day from like 18 to 28. Pond fished. Right now, I got about 45 minutes on a pond, and then I'm like, this is boring. And I've never felt that way on a trout stream or a flat. And sometimes when you're saltwater fishing, you're hunting, you're not fishing. You might go all day and cast 3 times.
Right.
And you still had a good day if you had shots. Yeah, you do. There's a sense of accomplishment to it. It is a little bit harder.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
You
You got to take that extra step.
Versus dunking a worm? Yeah.
Well-
but there are certain applications, like what I tell people about, and this is the only application where I think it's easier, because I think it's much easier to catch a bonefish on a live crab, on a spinning rod, or a live shrimp. And I think it's much easier to catch a pike or a muskie on a big, gaudy, spinning bait. Our streams in Iowa, a fly rod is a more efficient and a better tool to catch those fish. And I would only say that about our streams in Iowa and a few other trout streams. Trout in particular, maybe even bluegill. Bluegill love flies.
Yeah.
Bluegill
You
love
know
flies.
Yeah.
But it's a better, that's another thing I try to tell people, because they go up to Northeast Iowa like, yeah, I bring my spin rod and I brought the fly rod, but I had struggled for an hour. So I got the spinning rod out and I put a piece of dough bait on there, or a little MEPS. And I just tell people, leave the fly rod at home. If you want to learn how to do this, leave the spinning rod at home, and just take the fly rod. It's a more efficient tool. And that's really the only fishery that I've found, and I don't want to dissuade people from fly fishing, because it's how I support myself and we support ourselves. So please, come on board. It's a more efficient tool for Northeast Iowa and for trout.
Cool.
Because you're throwing smaller presentations to the fish, and you can't do that on a spinning rod.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah, because you're not going to throw a freaking tiny little fly like this with your spinning.
It won't bend the rod, so what people don't understand, the fly line has weight to it. There's some beef to the fly line, which the physics of it bend the fly rod. So you're really throwing the fly line and not throwing the lure or the fly. Whereas like when you're throwing a MEPS, the MEPS, it says on the package 1/8, 1/16, quarter ounce. And that's what's bending the rod. With the fly rod, the fly line's bending the rod.
Right.
Flies have very little weight to them.
Oh, I want to add something that I've noticed. Like, you can tell this guy is a fly fisherman because he's, for the people that are just listening, they don't see the video. Like, his movements are very deliberate, and it looks like he's just the way he's moving. Like, I feel like he actually has a fly rod in his hand, even though he's just going through the motions. And I was like, man, this guy is like, I feel like you have it down to like muscle memory. You're just like in there.
And that's really what Kirby and I, when we're, somebody comes in, they buy a fly rod from us, we're pretty adamant about like, hey, we're not going to spend 2 hours with you because it won't do you any good. We're going to teach you, we're going to confuse you.
Right.
But I want to spend 10 or 20 minutes with you just so you understand how this tool works. And I always say, the more you have the fly rod in your hand as a tool, it becomes a tool. And the muscle memory thing, like you can't, like when I'm trying to cast poorly, and not that I have a great cast, but when I'm trying to cast poorly, I can't do a demonstration of it anymore. Because you just learn, it's ingrained, it's muscle memory.
Yeah, I can just tell, like, when you're like just pretending to do it, I was like, oh, this guy, like when this is how I cast. Like, okay, there's nothing special about it, but just sitting here and he's like going through the motions, like, hey man, I could see it happening, like with the swirls and everything. Maybe I'm going a little too far with that, but
no, I love it, man. I'm picturing it right now myself.
Right.
I'm picturing you casting right now.
Oh, okay. Man, I might get like 10 feet, maybe.
No. You got to figure the rod's already 9 feet long.
Right.
Your leader's 9 feet long. So you're already at about 20 feet without even doing anything.
You're giving me too much credit. It'll probably land like behind me somehow, which it might happen.
And honestly, for our streams, you don't have to cast more than 20 feet.
You really don't. That's about
The
all.
idea is to get the fly in sync with the current to make it look natural. So you're not casting 50 feet, when we're trout fishing in Northeast Iowa. And some of the techniques we use, we do a lot of what we call European style nymphing, which is you're tight with your flies, and you're using a little bit heavier flies, and it's a really effective tool.
I'm gonna have to go YouTube this, but I gotta minimize my YouTube video.
It's the type of fishing that they do in competitions, like when there's actual fly fishing competitions.
And when we're starting people out, just have them throw in a roll cast, which is really simple. You're not even lifting your fly line off the water. You're just dragging it across, using that water tension, and just flipping it forward.
Yep.
And you're getting, I don't know, 10-foot cast or 15-foot cast, something like that.
Yeah, it's like any other fishing. You're not fishing if your lure, your bait, your fly is not in the water, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the misconceptions. I said, like Kirby said, we can get most people up to being able to catch a trout within 20 minutes.
Yeah, if you really want to get on the water, like it's not as hard as you think it would be. Like you can get them on there in 20 minutes, teach them a couple casts, and they're going to be catching fish and having a good time, which is what it's all about.
Yeah. And a bluegill, 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Which is one of my favorite all-time fish. They are such a cool game
I'm gonna
fish.
hold you guys to that. 3 minutes.
Yeah. We'll time it, Kirby.
We'll time.
You put a case of beer on it.
Ooh.
Hey, at least it doesn't cost $120 down here.
That is
No. No.
Very
it does
true.
not.
Man, this is fun, dude. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, I have one other thing, too.
What's up?
So, we're always trying to get people to get into the sport.
Mm-hmm.
I created a discount code for your listeners,
Okay.
BFF10, and we have a selection. I'll give you guys the link of some starter rod setups they're not in it. I mean, they're not. This isn't Walmart,
Right.
so just heads up.
It's still a mom and pop shop.
It is a very mom and pop shop, and we are the only Orvis. If you've heard of Orvis, we're the only Orvis dealer in the state of Iowa, which we're very proud of. That company has done so much for conservation. They give 5% of pre-tax profits back to the resource.
Mm-hmm.
They're a privately held company, family owned. Anyway, long story short, we've got a 10% discount code for intro fly fishing setups and lessons, and even like what we call, loose guiding trips for groups of up to 3 for the spring. I'll send you guys the link for our website. So,
Cool.
For a couple $100 less 10%, your listeners can get into it, or if you guys want to, I'll even give it to you guys.
Awesome.
Since you came all the way over
Yeah. I don't know.
from the other side of town to come,
Yeah, all the way from the south side.
to come hang with us. We're all East Siders.
East
though.
Sider. Yeah. Forgot. I'm
I'm an East Sider, too.
East Sider, man.
Yeah.
East High.
You went to east?
No,
Yeah.
I went
Well,
to Southeast Pope.
Yeah.
But
Oh, that's even further east, actually, when you think about it.
He's true
you know
East
what?
Side.
You're right.
He's true East
We're
Side.
closer. You know what? I was closer to the dump.
Ross, if you listen to this, he's true East
I'm
Side.
true
You
East
ain't
Side,
shit.
Ross. Yeah, I'm closer.
True
To,
East
I'm
Side.
closer to the landfill. I'm closer to the Runnels River bottoms,
There you go.
where the true East Siders live.
Too funny, dude.
But I did put this code together tonight. Hopefully somebody takes advantage or just reaches out and and just says, hey, we get it every day. We get phone calls, we get texts, we're real easy dudes to talk to. So I don't want anybody to be intimidated about coming into the shop. I hope everybody has a good experience, and
For sure.
save a few bucks if you want to get into the sport. It's a great gift. If you've been thinking about it, we have so many people that are like, I've been thinking about it for like 5 years. I'm like, what the frick?
Yeah.
What took you so long?
Sorry, I'm him.
Like, what took you so long? Like,
It's
you
like-
know?
because I think I underestimate my fishing abilities. Like I already have a hard enough time trying to catch it conventionally.
Yeah.
So why am I going to try to add on the
Oh.
difficulty level? That's how my train of thought was.
Yeah. There is a fly fishing humorist, guy named Hank Patterson, which you guys, it's hilarious. If you're a fly fisher, this guy's awesome. Look him up on YouTube, Hank Patterson. But he does this like faux fishing school, and he's like, the students are like, I'm fly curious.
Oh boy.
And so we get a lot of fly curious folks that come in the store, and we hopefully hold their hand and like, I always say, come over to the dark side.
There we go.
Grab the fly rod. I've caught everything from bluegill to sharks on a fly rod, and it's a ton of fun.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, I'm excited.
You're my special project for 2022.
You didn't have to sell me, but I think you pushed me
Special
over.
project right here.
Pushed me over the ledge. I'm doing it. So,
Good.
anything else, Kate? You got anything else for Kirby and Kevin here?
So if our audience wants to reach out to you, like, where's the shop? How can they get a hold of you guys?
Yeah, we're at 5804 Franklin, the corner of Merlehay and Franklin, centrally located. I feel like in Des Moines, from West Des Moines, Johnston, South Side, North Side, East Side, West Side. Maybe not the East Side. We're a little far from the East Side. Rodandrivet.com. My email is just kevin@rodandrivet.com. kirby@rodandrivet.com. And I'll have these guys post a link to the discount code on our website on the, on their homepage. But we'd love to make a great gift if for you or someone else in your family. Just have any questions, let us know. We it's not like we have a million people in here every day. It's a fly shop.
Right.
Don't be afraid to stop by.
Yeah, don't be afraid to stop by.
Come in,
Yeah,
ask
if you have questions, we're really happy.
You want to cast a fly rod in the parking lot? We can throw a reel on it for you and try it out.
That's awesome.
So you got like a Facebook, Instagram, all that
All
stuff?
that,
too?
all that, yeah.
Yeah, we'll post all that stuff. So
Yeah.
am I missing any other social media stuff?
No, I think
We don't have TikTok. We don't have.
That's what all the kids are into.
TikTok.
They're all on
I
TikTok.
bet if you do like a quick 30-second video of some crazy cast, 500,000.
You know what's crazy about all the other types of social media? Facebook is still a very dominant and
It's gonna be meta, guys. It's metaverse now.
when they're not done destroying the world, they still do a few good things.
Oh
Right.
boy, we're going to a deep hole. We start talking about social media, man.
Yeah,
It's,
but I always
agree.
find I've started a TikTok, Instagram, and stuff. But I always find myself going back to Facebook and YouTube. I think it's just there's more engagement there.
Yeah, and there's some really great local fly fishing groups that are on Facebook that are, again, they're small, they're helpful. It's a good resource for fly fishers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if you mentioned it already, but what groups in particular? Any ones?
The
that
Iowa
stand
Fly
out?
Guys is a great one. Those guys are my buddies, and a couple of the guys that are administrators for that website also teach my fly tying classes. My wife does a lot of the social media. Kirby's the least millennial I've ever met.
We just fish and
Kirby does. I
hang
don't
out
think
in the shop.
he's
Well,
ever posted a picture of any fish he's ever caught.
we'll definitely reach out to your wife, Laura.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, we post.
We should have you guys down to the Florida Keys to do one of these. My buddy Captain Kev. He's a conventional guide.
Okay.
If you're ever in Key Largo, look up Captain Kevin Jeffries. First Down Charters.
Okay.
He is the absolute most fun guy, most knowledgeable guy to fish with. It's not fly fishing, but if you're down with your family, your friends, your kids,
I've never ocean fished.
oh my
Never.
God, you're gonna move. You will move. You'll be like, I don't ever want to ice fish again.
Like, oh, fish in a river? What?
Yeah.
There you go, man. No, this has been fun. This has been informative.
Yeah.
I know what I'm gonna do now.
You're my pet project.
project.
Actually,
for
what I'm
Kevin.
gonna do is I'm like, Kirby, he's your pet project.
There we go. No, this was awesome.
Go
Thank
catch some wipers on the Des Moines River.
Yeah.
That's, We're doing that.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
We're gonna do that. We're
that's
gonna.
cool.
You know what? Let's fly fish and let's do this. We're gonna fly fish, catch some wipers, and we're gonna show you guys that we caught.
See,
wipers.
that's something I've always wanted to do. Like I said earlier, I kind of dabble in the fly fishing stuff, but it's been a long time ago for me. Well, I love wipers already. Ice rod, conventional rod. The only thing that's missing is the fly rod.
Wipers are
There you
cool
go.
fish too.
Yeah.
We'll do that. We'll make it.
Sounds like you've got a New Year's resolution.
Got a goal. We definitely have a
Yeah.
goal. No, we have a lot of listeners down south. We have a lot of listeners all over honestly the world now. I've been seeing a lot of downloads from crazy spots. I'm like, what the hell, you guys listen to a bunch of guys from Iowa? So, no, definitely, we'll put the links to the website because you guys might get some, questionnaires from people from out of
we'd
state.
love that.
So,
I wish we were more. We're kind of low key, man. We don't toot our own horn. Not that we have anything to toot about, but we are. There are 3 million people in the state of Iowa. We are the only dedicated fly shop in the whole state.
Yeah, and it's a freaking cool shop. My first time here, this time to hear like, whoa. This
My
place
favorite
is pretty
part.
cool.
You guys will have to get some photos of the rod wall.
okay.
That is the only thing I wanted in the fly shop. I'm like, that's my fly shop.
Right, everything else, whatever.
I
It
could
can
give
be
two
whatever.
shits.
We'll post this on the
But
YouTube and
the rod
everything,
the rod
yeah.
wall is the coolest part of the shop.
Cool.
It's got pictures of our friends, family, the trips we've taken. Just a lot of great memories that fishing, allows us.
We'll do this again next year. Well, I don't know, next season or whenever the slow season is
Let's
for
do
you
it up
guys.
in Decorah with you guys.
Okay, because I also want to to see how I'm progressing. I mean, I'm committing. I'm committed.
Sounds
to
like
this.
you've just hired Kirby for like the entire year of 2020 to
It could
guide
happen.
you.
It could. I don't know. I can't afford it. I got 4 kids, man. It's like
Kirby's not expensive. Let's be honest.
It's cheap.
There you go.
It's-
But thank you so much, Kevin, for just having us here at your shop. Just the knowledge you and Kirby just bring to us. This is fun, man. I can't wait to do this again with you guys. So I had a blast, man, and
We've had a lot of fun. Thank you guys for coming in. Again, it's just me and Kirby here in the shop. He's a great dude. He is the most chill guy I've ever known in my entire life, and he balances me out well when I'm like getting hyped up about something. Kirby's just like super chill, so it actually makes him, good to be around on the water.
there you go.
If you're interested in a lesson or wanting to learn,
Never gonna yell at you.
Kirby is never going to yell at you. And I've been yelled at by fishing guys before.
Even if you hook me up,
You get yelled at by fishing guides?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Oh yeah.
it happens.
It does?
Yeah.
Damn.
Unfortunately.
Unfortunate. Well, you won't get yelled at by Kirby.
You will not. So
Let's-
so give Kirby a call.
Make it happen.
All
He's
right.
got to get his flip over fishing hunt, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Get in here.
Get in here.
Rod and rivets.
Thank you guys.
Thanks,
All right,
guys.
Thank you.
Yeah.